Okay, let's get started. Hi, I'm panelist and moderator.
Hello.
We are talking about renovate to rent. You can't do it alone. And, ultimately, I think this conversation has a lot to do with just the power of collaboration and being better together, which is something we love. We wholeheartedly believe in that. So, beyond all of the fun design elements we're going to talk about today, we love kind of the underlying message for this. Moderated by Kelly Kegans of Minneapolis St. Paul Home and Design. Yay. Hi, Kelly. And then we have Heather and Brad Fox of Fox Homes and Stairsell. And then we have Mercedes Austin of Mercury Mosaics. And Elise Nicpon of Room and Board. Hi. Thank you all for being here. I am just gonna step away, take off my video screen, and I will let Kelly take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you to the lab for having all of us. This is so fun. We got to do a little run through yesterday, and it was great to see everybody's faces. And so I'm the lame one without the cool background, the Palm Springs house. So we'll get into that in a minute, but everyone will get to see. Had to keep it real. We're all here in Minnesota still. So I thought we would go around and you all can introduce yourselves. A lot of you all who are joining us know your brands and who you are, but let's kick it off with Heather and Brad, Brad Fox, who had Stay or Sell on HGTV and might have some news for us coming up. So can you guys tell us a little bit about everything that's happening?
Sure. Okay. So Heather and Brad, we own Fox Homes. We also have Fox Design and Fox Realty as well. Or our design company is now being changed to Foxwell, along with a retail shop, which we were planning to open this week. Obviously, we're delayed. Really great time to get into retail. But we're excited, and obviously, it's just like everyone else. You pivot and figure it out, right? So we're kind of working on our online shop instead and figuring out ways that we can make our delay work. But yeah, we were fortunate enough. We got a call from HGTV almost 3 years ago, right? And we thought it was a joke, and it wasn't. And they did a show with us, so we were super lucky to do that. It was an intense year. We filmed the pilot in 2018.
Into 19. Most of 19 also.
Oh no, that was the series,
oh, the
pilot, yeah. And then the series, and it was a very intense year, but it was great. And now I can say we are working on something with HGTV currently. We just can't really give much detail yet.
Love it. Love we can break some news here too. So yeah. Thank you. I'll kick it over to you, Mercedes, from Mercury Mosaics. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and how you know these guys?
Yeah, totally. So I'm Mercedes Austin. I started off as a solo maker, and I have a passion for mosaics, and I was really interested in making all of these mosaics with my own tile. So fast forward 18 years later, here I am. I've got a studio that employs around 30 artisans, and I am still trying to figure out how to make mosaics as a solo artist. But in the meantime, we're making really cool furniture items for places like Room and Board. We work on grocery store cheese departments, and then we work on beautiful backsplashes, like my hand disappearing in the background, and Palm Springs here, and kind of everything in between. And I have a love for math and geometry, so this company really encompasses all of that. And I've always been interested in just exploring the concept of making a living with your art. So my company is an embodiment of that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that tile work back there. We'll get to see that closer up in a few minutes. It's beautiful. And Elise from Room and Board. Oh, we're so lucky to have Room and Board here with your heirloom furniture that you all do. I don't know if everyone knows, they're obviously based here in Minneapolis. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company and how you got involved in the project.
Yeah, so I'm Elise. I've been with Room and Board 12 years. I've worked in the outlet, I've worked in the showroom, and now I am overseeing guiding the outside sales team for our commercial division. I am so passionate about not only the opportunity to collaborate with this team and be a part of a company who is able to collaborate with this team, but just all of the artisans that we get to collaborate with, about 90% of our assortment is made with small artisans and medium-sized artisans in the US, many of them in Minnesota. And so to be able to be a part of a company that cares about that and supports that, and then was able to play a part in and be a date night for Heather and Brad has been really fun. So I really appreciate being here today.
That's great. Well, I feel like Chris Cuomo here. Let's get after it. Heather and Brad, can you tell us about the project in case people don't know? So you all built this awesome house in Palm Springs. Want to tell us more?
Yeah, so we came from a background in real estate for the last 16 years now, actually. And in real estate, we have January is basically off, like everyone. Oh, you're just spraying the pool.
Oh.
Just spraying the pool.
Okay.
We would always get this long breaks in January, so we would want to take advantage of that, and we take our kids somewhere warm. And we started going to Palm Springs, and we just absolutely fell in love with it. It was perfect for us, perfect for the kids. And we were renting houses down there for 1 week or maybe even 2 weeks at a time. And like, again, absolutely falling in love with it, but it's not cheap to rent a house down there necessarily. And so we started thinking about this and how we knew we wanted to be there long-term as a dream. And we started to figure out ways that we could try to make that happen. So what we came up with was actually buying something, which sounds crazy. And it was a little crazy, and we can go through that as well. But so that we could like rent it out and have somebody else pay the mortgage for the next, 20 years while we're working. And then
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So once we went down the rabbit hole here, we were looking at existing homes from the like 50s and 60s, some amazing iconic architecture in Palm Springs. One opportunity that came to us was a developer that had licensed the plans for Joseph Eichler, who was a builder, and Eichler Homes that built all over Southern and Northern California. They were essentially tract homes for post and beam. And their approach was to try to build these industrial, sort of straightforward, but like modern high style homes that were more approachable back in the day, in the 50s and 60s. He's since passed away and the company is gone now, but the homes are very iconic. And so we were able to put this kind of crazy package together to actually rebuild an Eichler in Palm Springs. And so we couldn't really pass that opportunity up.
Cool.
It totally looks like it's been there too. I mean, I didn't realize it was a new
construction. We really wanted to buy something original and restore it, but when this opportunity came, it was just kind of perfect for us, since we actually build homes in Minneapolis too, so it's kind of fit us perfectly. So then it was a matter of like, we knew this was going to be a vacation rental from the beginning. This is not just a second home that sits there and does nothing while we're gone. And then we had to decorate this home, which obviously Heather is incredibly good at. And so we started thinking about like, well, how could we decorate this home with some of the partners and people that we knew back in Minneapolis, because we have such amazing talent and just amazing resources here in Minneapolis. So
we were lucky enough to be asked to be part of Modernism Week, which is this big thing in Palm Springs. If you are at all a fan of modern architecture, mid-century modern architecture, really check it out. It's super cool. They open up all of these houses that you can tour. They have all of these events. There's lots of cool like partners that are there. There's a big market with like mid-century modern furniture and items. It's a pretty cool thing. So they asked us to be part of it, and it was right in line with kind of when our house was finishing. So we knew that things were going to be tight, but we decided to absolutely do it. And it was, I had this dream of like, okay, we are Minnesota. We have all of these amazing artisans and makers in Minnesota, and I want to bring as many of them as I can. Luckily, we were able to make some really amazing partnerships. And I mean, a really good amount of the things in this house are from Minnesota makers, which is cool.
I think that's so cool. I mean, Minnesota, Palm Springs, not exactly the same, but
polar opposites almost.
Right, exactly. So Mercedes, did Brad call you, or how did that happen when you all connected?
Well, actually, this was really cool because I actually had never met Heather and Brad, or so I thought. Just a small little tangent is Brad is actually in the band Farewell Milwaukee, And in a past relationship I was in, my significant other was a huge fan, and I definitely liked the music as well. And Brad had played a house concert at my house, and I didn't even realize like he was connected to that. So that was like 15 years ago. Pretty wild, small
We
world.
just figured that out like this week. We just made
So
that
cool.
connection.
That is so cool.
Wild. Yeah, and Heather had reached out, you know, I had actually just made it up that she was a builder in California, the way that she had proposed her project. And I just kind of jumped on it because it sounded really interesting, and I'm very glad that I did. I'll be completely honest with you, I hadn't had Modernism Week on my radar, so it just kind of glided over my shoulder. And I think that might be kind of a similar thing with some of the other partnerships that you were setting up. And it just really goes to prove, like, when you have a vision for something, like, you're constantly really educating people on that vision. And she's a very trustworthy, very reliable person, and you just want to get on board with what she's doing, basically.
Absolutely. And Elise, you did mention, obviously, Room and Board also cultivates a lot of the makers around the area, Hennepin, May. There's just so many. And it's really cool to see this whole place furnished with Room and Board pieces. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. I know we're going to get into some tips about certain pieces you should think about in a rental.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Heather did an amazing job designing and selecting, but, you know, as we go through and are looking at the slideshow, you know, the upholstery that's there is made in North Carolina. The beds that are powder coated and really beautiful are made right here in Minneapolis by Bell Steel. So there was just, you know, there was a lot of layers that they brought in from, Dutton Brown. You mentioned Dutton Brown are in the Twin Cities. We work with them too. So, you know, just we had also been a part of modernism in a lot of different ways over the years, and was really our retail market manager for our Culver City store. Heather was really passionate about participating in modernism. So we had been in different smaller ways. And then this opportunity came up, and it was just a fantastic partnership. So to be able to have that many makers, or represent that many of our artisans in the home, was really special.
And I think we can pull up the slideshow and whenever we want, but Heather, I wonder if you can talk about how you approach the design. I know you and I were talking about, you know, you have to have hardworking things. People are going to be in there, you know, hopefully not beating up things, but it's going to get a lot of use. How did
Absolutely. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that every single thing we had in this house was going to be, it was going to last, right? Because it's not just us and our kids and our family and our friends. It's also a lot of people. I mean, there's Coachella, there's what's Stagecoach, all of these things where there's like large groups of people. And a lot of times with how we built this house, and we can talk to this a little bit more, we made it 5 bedrooms so that there is room for like multiple couples, multiple families, a family to bring mom and dad and grandma and grandpa along, and everyone can fit in one house, which was kind of our vision for what the house was going to be, because we also do that. We bring our parents with.
We travel.
So as we were choosing things, it was like, you know, I want to choose items that when we come and use it, that it doesn't feel worn, and it doesn't feel like, you know, there's been a bunch of like use and abuse. So we worked with the commercial interiors as much as the residential interiors of Room and Board to make sure that we could choose all those items that were going to last long term. And Room and Board has their version of the indoor-outdoor fabric. I can't remember what it's called, Elise, you can talk to that. But it's amazing. That's with that couch there, that the Reese sectional, which is a curved sectional, which I think is just so perfect in this space anyhow. It is the most durable fabric ever. I mean, we were there over Christmas, and we had a raspberry like embedded in it from our son Wesley. And I was like, oh, what, you know, this is never going to come out. It seriously came out with like just a cloth with water. It's such a durable fabric, and we are such a fan. And that was really, I mean, everything we chose, we tried to choose linens. We went with almost all white because we knew that that was going to be any stain we could remove, anything that got on it. You know, rugs, we went with floor, which I know partners with Modernism Week often, and I think maybe Room and Board too. So those rugs that you see, those are all floor tiles, FLOR, and they're like 24 by 24 squares that you kind of tape together underneath, they're also completely washable. And then obviously we have Dutton Brown for all the light fixtures, Mercury Mosaics for that amazing tile you're seeing. All those cabinets are made by Kerf, K-E-R-F. They're not local, they're out of Seattle. But what I really loved is that dresser that you just saw really looks almost just like the Kerf. That's a room and board piece. And when we saw that, we were like, oh my gosh, it matches perfectly. And we pulled it in, and it's so cool. All the wallpaper in the house too is Huga and West, which is half local. Amy's here in Minneapolis. I know they have their distribution, some other stuff here locally in Minnesota. And then the other half is in California, which obviously was kind of a good little collab. But yeah, I mean, everything in that house was, the furniture is like 99% room and board, which we knew the quality is there. It's going to last long term, and it's just something we didn't have to think about and worry about, which was really important to us.
Well, it's also tricky too. I'll just say that it's obviously a mid-century home.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an architecturally significant home, and there are a lot of purists out there. And so we had to blend the idea of, I mean, we definitely talked about finding actual mid-century pieces to put in the home. And that sounds really cool and really great. But in practice or in reality, I don't know that they would hold up. They're already 50 to 60 years old to start with. And so it was one of those things where we needed a brand, we needed a company that was making something that blended well with a mid-century home, but wasn't necessarily 50 or 60 years old. So
right.
Yeah, that's kind of how we ended up. I mean, room and board's perfect for that. They blend so perfectly with that.
No, that's a good point. I mean, obviously the furniture is heirloom too, so it's worth the investment to do that kind of thing. Mercedes, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about some of the tile work and how you, obviously you worked in tandem with Heather, but it makes such a statement in all the rooms that it's in. How did you come up with some of those designs?
Well, I was very much inspired by Heather's vision. She really had this goal to use yellow. And yellow isn't a common color that you look to permanently install in homes. So I really love the challenge behind that, and something that she would be glad that she put in there 10 years later, and something that feels like it could have been there if the house was actually built mid-century. So that really drove that. And then like in the bathroom where there was pink tile. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, when some of my team 10 years ago wanted to have pink tile on our color palette, I was like, there's no way anyone's going to install pink tile. I've been right about a lot of things, and I've been wrong about a lot of things.
That one.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely over the last couple of years, I've embraced pink. So I've changed as a person in my tastes, and the way that Heather put it together, because we went through a lot of iterations, didn't we, Heather? We had like an ombre of like 4 shades of pink, and we're going in many different directions, and you really chose to embrace one tone, which had very slight variation that would just create a pop. And I kind of also appreciated that we didn't try to cover every single wall in the bathroom. Like, we were actually looking at that, but we really decided with the intentional placement that you can make more stand out with less, which was really, there was back and forth. And that's kind of like, you're always chiseling away at what's not going to work, what's not going to be timeless, until you arrive at something, you just stop thinking about it and you're just excited about it. And I'd say that's how we systematically achieved each room's tile as we went. Is that about right?
Absolutely. When we came into it, I had this goal of for the two, there's 3 bathrooms, but for 2 of them, I really wanted to go with like that iconic 1950s, the pink bathroom that you see everywhere. And then there's kind of that like sea foamy green color that you see often too. So I was super inspired by that. And I told Brad, I'm like, okay, we're going to have a pink bathroom, like ode to the 50s, and like the sea foam green. And obviously Mercedes was the first one to come to mind. And looking through there are a lot of really great pinks, actually, like a lot. We went with the color grapefruit, and it is the bathroom. Whenever I post pictures of it, or whenever anyone sees it, I mean, when people stay, we get so many questions about that bathroom in particular, and what tile that is and how it works. And we've had a few other people from California then choose it. One person I think did it in a backsplash with you, like a really cool like grapefruit pink backsplash in their kitchen, which is super cool. But yeah, we knew, you know, this is a new house, but it's built off of a 1950s plan. So we tried to be like real about it, right? Like we wanted to, in the original 1950s plan, we had it approved by the architecture firm, or the really the children of Eichler, to take the wall out right where you're looking now. There was originally a wall in the kitchen. That doesn't necessarily work as well in, especially a vacation home. It's kind of nice to be open, and you know, if you're in the kitchen cooking, you can be open to the dining room, open to the pool, just having kind of that open space. So we had a few changes like that, but we also wanted to have those fun little kitschy things that were from the 50s. So the tile was a huge way to do that.
I mean, you guys have covered so much that I think is important, even if it's a rental. You know, it's budget savvy too, to obviously think about these impactful walls, whether it be the tile wall or the wallpaper that you use to make a statement. But don't be afraid to personalize the space, because you will get people, which is great for all the brands that you collaborate with as well. It's sort of like a testimony to that. Elise, what are some things? I mean, there's such a variety at Room and Board in terms of furniture. What should people consider if they're thinking about a rental, but they also, it's their space that they're going to use when it comes to choosing pieces?
Yeah, I think that was, Heather and Brad brought up such a good point when we were practicing, just talking about, you know, when wanting to have this space, but wanting to be able to use it and have it be beautiful and meaningful to you. So I think, you know, as you're looking to that renovate to rent, we always, you know, are a big proponent of think about the furnishings, like what is the flow of the room going to be, what size of a sofa or bed or whatever might be the right, you know, what will fit depending on what edits or changes you make to a space. Where are the outlets is always another really big thing to think about, right? Like what's the lighting in the room and how will we light it, and where will those outlets be? So sometimes we'll get that, you know, there'll be new builds or rebuilds, and then you get to the point where you're collaborating on furnishings and it's like, oh, I guess nightstands don't fit here, you know? So anytime you're, if you can keep both things in mind as you're renovating the space is really helpful. And then also to personalize it to your own style, of course, and the style that you think will attract the type of client that you want to be renting. And then that durability. So because for us, we're so fortunate to work with the craftspeople that we do, things are bench made, you know, they're already just going to be really durable. All of our fabrics are heavy commercial grade or higher. And then you have that other tier that is or heavy duty or higher, and then there's that commercial grade, right? So like the sunbrella that Heather was mentioning, sunbrella fabric, you know, it's acrylic dyed, acrylic is dyed before it's even a thread, and so you just clean it right up with any distilled water is great, soap, whatever.
It's so soft. It's so soft.
Yeah, and the colors, there's quite a palette. Yeah. So I think, you know, it's balancing that durability without making it look industrial. You know, you don't want it to look like a clinic, but and how can you find that balance? And it's finding the right partner for you in the furnishings. So we're really thrilled that it was us for this one.
I love that. What are some must-dos or don't bother in terms of how much you're putting into this home? Like you don't want to, you know, that you have that advice on your own home, right? So
yeah, I was going to speak to that actually, even to pair off the Room and Board thing. I think a lot of people would approach this and say,
oh, sorry. Every time I turn my head, I disappear. So that's why I'm not looking at Brad.
She just fades away. So I think one piece of advice I would say that's sort of paid off for us is you wouldn't, I mean, Room and Board's not the most, it's not the cheapest furniture out there, both obviously not in quality. It's not cheap in quality. It's not the lowest price point because it is so high quality, right?
And it's made in the USA, which is also
so many wonderful things. But you know, I think an easy tendency would be to think, let's put a bunch of cheap furniture in there, and you know, we'll get through it for now. And then every 2 or 3 years, probably you'd have to continually like swap that out. So we did not want the maintenance, but I would say for do's and don'ts, one do that might surprise people is I do think you should invest in both stylish and quality furniture, because what we've found is the more we invest in this house and the more perks and the more fun things that we do, the more payoff we have. So people are more interested in renting this house. They're more excited to rent the house. And we may even get, you know, I don't even know what the percentage is. I haven't run the numbers on that, but we've just been blown away by how many people want to rent it. And I think a big part of that is because it's like a very nice, normal home. It doesn't look like, you know, kind of a cheap, chintzy rental property. So I think you can approach that, maybe invest just a little bit more, both for your sake and durability, but also just to attract more people because they'll just see beautiful furniture. And I think that's where they want to go. They want to spend the money, give you the money to immerse themselves in that space for the 2-3 days or whatever. And with Palm Springs especially, it is like another world when you go down there. And so we knew that we needed to create this thing that they will pay to go immerse themselves in the Palm Springs life.
And to your point on investing, there's another thing too that goes beyond, like, obviously our whole goal with this was to create like an escape, a getaway, like a little party. Like you walk in the door and you just feel like you're on vacation, right? There's lots of color. It's still like generally grounded, right? It's not like a color everywhere, but there's a good amount of it where you just kind of feel like, yeah, you're in Palm Springs. It makes total sense. But also as far as the investment point, the other thing is like, we invested in solar. It was almost $30,000 to add solar panels on our house. And that was a huge, 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 huge thing to add to it, right? But we sat down and we looked and we almost didn't do it. We looked at the payoff and it really pays for itself in about 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And I mean, that's huge, right? So it's a big investment up front, but when you start to look at the fact that A, we're making a better choice for the environment, but then B, that we're actually like making a smart financial decision because this is a house that we plan to retire in 30, well, I don't know, when do our kids graduate? 12 years. You know, like we want to spend more time there. We want this house to be something that we own forever, long term. We don't have plans of this being a house that will sell and do something different. Like this is ours for the long haul. So we wanted to make decisions that were smart. Washer and dryer too, like buying a nicer washer and dryer, a more workhouse horse one where we spent a little bit money on those things, you know, like it's hard sometimes to pay that extra amount, but when you really look at that long term, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Were there things that you can pass on in terms of things you did, but you might not do if you're going to build again like this or remodel again, or any sort of lessons learned?
Interesting. Yeah.
Good question. I feel like I actually can't really think of anything. Yeah. To be honest, this is a dream that we've had for about 5 years. And we had so much planning, and Brad is an insane planner. I'm more impulsive. I'm like, let's just do it. Sounds great. Yeah. Brad spent years like researching, and this is for anyone who's going to be doing a potential vacation rental, research where it is, because every single city is different. Some restrict the amount of renters that you can have during a year. Some restrict the amount of days. Some make you pay, you know, there's lots and lots of different things to consider. So make sure that you're not just thinking of it like globally. It really is like a local thing. You need to get down to the city and everything that you're in. But I totally lost what I was even saying. What was I saying?
Well, any regrets or anything
regrets.
you do differently?
No, I feel like we planned so much and we thought and agonized over every decision so much before the house was even starting to be built that I feel like we don't have any regrets. I don't know if you.
Not yet. Anyways.
Not yet.
And our first year and a half was going great. Obviously, vacation rentals are now shut down because of this little situation we're in, but that's not forever. So, yeah, I think things have gone well. I think to piggyback on Heather's point about really researching the area, I will admit I was just deep in research of Palm Springs just because I love history, I love architecture. I would do that anyways, but I think if you were going to do this in another city, Minneapolis, even St. Paul, or you pick somewhere in Wisconsin, I think without being tacky, I think you should really play up where you're going. Because again, I think people they're going on vacation, they're going away, they want to immerse themselves in that. And I think it needs to be done tastefully, and I'll throw that in there. But
yeah, that's true.
Because there's a lot of cheesy stuff out there. But I do think it's really important for that house to be like, if it's Nashville or if it's Austin, Texas, or if it's whatever, it should feel like they're going there and they're,
I think that's a great point, because it's almost like why boutique hotels are so popular, right? Because they are personalized like that. So
Yep. Yep.
I know we've got a ton of questions, so I'm going to kick it back to Molly, who's going to navigate us. Yeah.
We've actually been getting a lot of requests too, to just keep these beautiful images going. Love your lovely faces, but it's so fun to see this slideshow, and we can certainly share in the follow-up email just how you can get more information. Their website literally is like a scrolling slideshow of these images, so it's really fun to check out. We'll send you that link. But as we're doing the Q&As, I thought it might be just kind of fun to put that slideshow on so people can view those images while you guys are answering questions. So I'm just going to start it off with this one from Tamra. I'm wondering if there's a rule of thumb for renovation budget versus value of the house. Like at what point is a property too costly to renovate for rent? And then kind of a sub question to that, are there any things outside of safety concerns or inspection requirements that you consider like must do or don't bother to get a property ready for rent?
Well, so we took the short-term rental approach. Obviously, that you can do a long-term rental as well. The way that we looked at this was we tried to figure out how often we'd have it rented, which is long-term and short-term, either way. But I think that you want to try to be very realistic with what you can actually get. And the way you can get sort of the comparables, you can obviously just go on
Vrbo, Vrbo.
Yeah, their new brand
or
is
Airbnb.
Airbnb, HomeAway. Go on there and honestly just look at what's being rented. Look at their calendar, see how busy they are. Look at their rates. You'll start to build that, market analysis, I guess, for what you think you could expect. And then honestly, I was very realistic with I was thinking maybe 10 nights per month. That's it, or maybe even less, and just really run your numbers in a really conservative way, because you never know when a global pandemic might hit or, something might come up. But I would say then work backwards from there. You can calculate your payment. One thing Heather was mentioning is that about how we approach this and how we got this done. It seems insane, even to us, that that house you're seeing right now is a second home for us, and that is insane. However, what people don't really realize is that the way that the financing works for a second home is that you can do as little as 10% down, which I know is still, it can be a lot of money, but you don't have to have $1 million property as your second home, obviously. You could do something like a cabin on the woods for $125,000, or you can, and that second home, talk to your local mortgage professional or shoot us an email. We're happy to give you some referrals, but 10% down. So this does not have to be this insane financial decision, but you'll obviously want to work in your construction budget as well. So kind of package that all together and really work backwards from what we did is we just said, we basically want to break even. So we took our mortgage, our principal, interest, taxes, all those normal home expenses. And then we just added in, what we thought we needed to do to renovate. And then remember and keep in mind, you definitely want to keep a budget. And this is something that Heather and I laugh about, because I was like, oh, we probably only need, a little bit of money for design and for furnishing, right? And she was like, no, we need to really do this right. And that was something that she pointed out to me that was very wise.
And when you think of a vacation home, like this, it's not like we just have to have furniture. We also have to have all of the linens for the beds, all the pillows, all of the pots and pans, all of the dishes, all of the towels, all of the, there's so many things beyond just the furniture, which is obviously a large expense in itself. But there was a lot of things to kind of consider with it. But to your point too of the value, I think that one of the huge things, we get this question a lot here locally, and we can help when it comes to Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. We really can help kind of through those local costs. If you're looking at somewhere else, find a professional, find someone that's there, that lives there, that understands it. Talk to a real estate agent who, go online. It's amazing what you can learn from, doing a little Google research, right? So find somebody who's there who can help you find that property. I would say is to hire a real estate agent to help you buy something. It doesn't cost you anything. Do it. Find a professional to help you. And then hopefully that professional will also have some resources for you for short-term rentals. Like in Palm Springs, for example, there's such a huge thing that there's probably, I don't know, 50 different companies that all kind of would help you rent your property out. So they really just like take over, they take control. They typically take about 20 to 25%. We actually do something a little different. We self-manage since we just have one property. And we have a person in Palm Springs, for example, you have to have a concierge. Sounds so fancy.
Sounds fancy.
That meets you at the property, checks the people in, tells them the rules of Palm Springs, because there are some rules here. You can't have loud music outside. You can't have parties of more than 10 people. You know, the city mandates these certain things. So getting to know those rules are important too. But having that person that you trust who's on the ground, because obviously we're not in California every single time a renter comes through. And then even as questions come up during the time when the house is being rented, we don't have to worry about those. If somebody's wondering, you know, hey, the coffee pot broke, can you get another one? That's Marshall, our awesome guy who's on the ground there in Palm Springs. So finding somebody who's going to help you, if it is something that's in Nashville or wherever it is, somebody on the ground that can help you, because it'd be pretty impossible to really do it without that.
Oh, on that question, I feel like I maybe sort of half answered it. The answer is, in my opinion, this is a long-term investment. So you're talking about overspending for the property and the value. Definitely find out what the value of the property is. However, this is long-term, right? So I would say go right to the limit. I know I'm not saying overspend. I'm not saying break your budget. Set those guidelines in the beginning, but I would personally feel comfortable going right to the edge, investing more money in the house because you will get a bigger return, and you're not looking to sell this next year anyways. So I would say, think of this as a long-term investment. And then there was a second part to the question. I want to make sure I answer that. What was the follow-up of that value?
Oh, the safety. So yeah, with the pool, that's definitely something where that's another reason why you have to have somebody meet on site. They have to sign off liability that there is a pool and they'll be careful. We of course have a sign that's up, which is mandated by the rules and regulations in the city. Otherwise, I mean, really, what's that? Oh yeah, every slider.
I know all the things that I had to do, but so every slider, any access out to the pool has a chime on it. So I had to put a chime on there so we know that there's kids, you know, maybe leaving the house for the pool. Definitely fire extinguishers. I will say this, like, I know it honestly does seem a little scary to have people swimming in a pool. Yeah, you keep disappearing. Oh wow. Bye. But you know, the key is obviously the contract that you have them sign. Be very, very clear with all the rules, and you know, I think insurance policies, I don't know, it is a little nerve-wracking, but we've had like no problems so far.
Oh, actually, we did have one of those really giant glass windows by the in the family room where someone was sitting. Oh, where Elise is sitting. One of those big windows behind you shattered into a million pieces.
Yeah, right there. Yes.
But it was covered by insurance, and it was the renter has a policy. We make them have that policy. And it was a total accident. It wasn't anything that they did necessarily, just got, you know, hit with the ball or something. And it was fully covered by insurance. So there's moments like that where stuff's going to happen. And that's what we've always said from the beginning too, is like, you know what, there's maybe going to be some holes put in walls. There's maybe going to be a you know, a scratch on the couch or a rug that gets ruined or something. But we're going into this knowing that that's a possibility, and then also having that insurance policy. And on the ground, we have Marshall, again, our guy in Palm Springs who's kind of managing our rental on the ground there, and he walks through the house and notices every little thing. For example, we had a beautiful room and board chair in our back by the pool that someone put a cigarette out on, and you know what? It's kind of made of, like, I think recycled plastic, the wall. It got a big burn mark in it. So they had to buy us a new chair, and that was through their insurance policy. So I think it's just making sure that you're covered and that you have the right things in place. And truthfully, Airbnb and Vrbo really help you with that too.
Okay, guys, I'm going to jump in. We're going to do one more question. Who or would you do more vacation rental properties? And if so, where would you want to do it? ... up north, question mark?
Yeah.
That's so funny you asked that.
Did somebody, is this someone that knows Heather? She's been lobbying for up north properties.
Okay, so I am from the Alexandria, Minnesota area. That's where my family is. I love it up there. It's beautiful. We go back and visit my mom often, and brothers and everybody. But we have a dream of a house there in the Alexandria area on a lake somewhere. Using it ourselves, of course, and meeting family and having fun little parties and stuff, but also having it as a vacation rental. And I really do think that in that area, that's a huge thing that's missing, because everything there's plenty of rentals, but so much of it is like cabin themed in a really not room and board way. And I feel like there's such a possibility to make it so amazing and still Minnesota themed, right? But having it just be cool and comfortable and filled with room and board furniture and Mercury Mosaics tile.
So
And,
like a bear carved out of a stump.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Two, one on each side when you enter the door. But yeah, definitely. And then I think other areas, I mean, if it was up to me, Brad is the realist who does spreadsheets and figures all of these things out and laughs at me sometimes, but usually is fully supportive of all of my crazy ideas. But I do think that, you know, our goal is to have a quote unquote like portfolio of Airbnbs that we can go and have fun at. And real estate also is a really great investment, and we understand it since we have worked in that industry for a while. So I think that if you do get it, it really can be a great way to invest your money and know that when our kids go to college, maybe we'll sell one of them and it'll pay for their college education. So having those correct areas, I think. But we'd love to do something. We've talked about Austin, Nashville, which are obviously huge hot markets. I think something on the East Coast could be really cool too, like in a beachy, fun way. I don't know. I have lots of places, but the next one is definitely going to be Alexandria area.
Love it. Love it. That's on our way to our cabin. So I know that area well. That's exciting. Okay, you guys, it's already 10:49. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So we do want to wrap up at 11. And if you guys have just any closing remarks, Kelly, I'll start with you to wrap this up, and then we're going to jump into giveaways.
Oh, exciting. Yeah. I guess you kind of answered a lot of the questions right there. Does anybody have, Elise or Mercedes, did you guys want to chime in on anything that you heard and want to speak to?
I do. Well, I want to say too, one thing that I observed with this property with Heather and Brad, it kind of holds true for people that I work with that are really embracing in commercial spaces, just making things Instagrammable. And that really, basically what I feel in Heather and Brad going out on a limb with really awesome design and having murals in there and different patterns with the wallpaper and tile is she's turned her renters into her marketing plan. And so she's killing two birds with one stone. She's got a property that's like beautiful and people are advertising and tagging for her, which is people really respond to word of mouth, and beautiful word of mouth through Instagram it's a game changer. So I just wanted to plug that and why you should be really collaborative and expressive visually in these properties that you rent out. It's key.
Right.
Great point.
Yeah, it's worth finding good partners and spending a little more on the quality and the design. It absolutely pays off big time.
Hey, yeah, I guess, Elise, do you want to speak to that? It's almost like brand ambassadors built in, right?
Yeah, it's true. And I think the other thing that Heather and Brad brought up when you were talking about solar panels or, you know, looking at quality furnishings for your home or for a rental is that, and a big passion of Room and Boards is sustainability and keeping all of that out of the landfills. In addition to supporting American artisans, it's a smaller footprint. Right? We're not having to get it from thousands of miles away, or, you know, not only supporting their craft, but just the sustainable and protecting the planet. You know, that's such a big part. And so what you're doing in so many ways does that. And that's a passion of Room and Boards because we do want the furniture to last a long time. We make it out of beautiful natural materials and which will last so that we don't keep filling landfills with throwaway furniture or, you know, that kind of thing. So
That's a great point. And I do have to say, you're not saying it, but that you guys have won a big award, several big awards for the sustainability of your furniture. So I think that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Molly, I'm gonna kick it to you for the fun stuff.
Thank you all. This was fun. This was so fun. Even though we weren't right next to each other, I felt like we were, and so inspired. Thank you all for being here today. Yay. Just a few things before we wrap up. We really want to keep this going, you guys, every month. We have our conversations lined up for the year. So stay tuned on, you know, what we're going to be doing for May for Lab Talks. And we will send a follow-up email. I mean, there are a lot of good questions that were coming through, and as mentioned, just kind of providing some information that was discussed during the talk today. So all attendees, just be on the lookout for that follow-up email. And then I'm going to share my screen here to talk giveaways. Can you guys see this okay? Mm-hmm. Hopefully. So, sorry, I'm still just getting used to all. Okay, so we have a variety of giveaways. I'm just going to talk through them quickly before we have actually already selected people just who showed up today via Zoom. I'm just going to talk about all the giveaways quickly. We have 3 parallel gift cards that we will be giving out. Basically, again, to support them during this time, and also for you guys to look forward to days and we're back there again. And then this is a really cool thing. Jackson Schwartz, who's the owner of Hennepin Made and Parallel Cafe in the Holden Room, he and his amazing team of creatives knew they needed to do something during this time. And he actually said, you know, how can we look to design to provide a symbol of our collective action, hope, support, and strength during this time? That was kind of their mission during this. And so they came out with a limited edition Ripple votive designed by Jackson and their team to create just an object, something that would reflect the ripple effect of solidarity and hope during this time. It's handcrafted to make just positive waves, was kind of their vision behind it. And these are on sale now on their website, hennepinmade.com, and 100% of the proceeds benefiting will go to Second Harvest, Heartland's Minnesota Central Food Program. So we're giving one of those away today. And then there's a really fun curated gift basket that Mercedes put together from Mercury Mosaics, featuring a trivet that she made, you guys. Oh. It's beautiful. And then some earrings from a local designer, and then also a local artist as well. So did a really beautiful print. So then we also have a really fun curated Palm Springs gift basket from the new Foxwell store, which I'm just going to start showing you guys this because it's more fun to see visuals, right? So here are the gift card winners for Parallel Cafe. And here, and obviously you guys, we have your information. So we will be following up with you via email with this information. And then the gift card winner for, which I don't think I even mentioned yet, but for room and board, $150. What?
Awesome.
Yes, Abby Holden. Hi, girl. You got $150 for room and board. Then we also have, this is what I was mentioning, and I'm like, okay, visuals are so much better than me just talking about it. Foxwell is the new retail store that will be coming soon. Look at this amazing beach ball, you guys, that Heather and Brad have right now. What? This is like the perfect little.
Summer's not canceled, right?
Summer's not canceled.
Thank you, Heather. Very true. This is so stinking cute. And yes, Laura, enjoy this and make some really fun cocktails with this set. And then this is the beautiful curated gift box from Mercedes and Mercury Mosaics. Taylor won that. And then the Ripple votive winner is Karen Gray. And lastly, you know, we're just thanking our sponsors and for all of you guys for being here. Thanks for bearing with us. You know, we did it. This is our first Zoom. This is the first time we're trying to create an event that usually happens in real life in a totally different way via Zoom. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. You know, we'll be in touch with more information of what we learned today and just, yeah, stay tuned on more information. But thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us. So fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Guys. All right, we're signing off.
Bye.
Minnesota,
Bye,
goodbye.
guys. Bye, Heather.
Yeah.
Brad. Mercedes, Kelly. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.